just to start off with, to show you, okay, see, this was my old farm, but it's this year. And these are the beds, and this is permanent mobile grass and clover and plantain and whatever survives as a sod. So see how the strips are cut down through there with the spader? Yep. And everything else is mowed. And the mowing provides mulching materials and animal feed and all kinds of things. And what my experience was originally I could mow it every 2 or 3 weeks and keep it under control. It got to where the soil food web was cooking to such an extraordinarily vital degree that I had to mow it every week or I couldn't keep it under control. What happened then, because I fattened my beef and I milked my cow on the green chop, and with my Honda rear bagging lawnmower, 9 full bags I could pack them all 9 on a wheelbarrow, contractor's wheelbarrow, and I just packed and packed and packed, and it would hold 9. So I would take that then to the barn, put half of it in the manger, and I'd get my milking bucket and I'd bang the handle of the bucket on the bucket, and that was the cow's signal that it was time to get milked. And the cow would come running off the pasture, and I'd milk the cow and then turn the cow out with the calf. So the cow here's the cow, she's been milked dry, the calf tries to get some from her, doesn't get but a dribble at first. And then throughout the day, the calf gets all its requirements because it's hitting the cow as often as it wants. So it would get tanked up, but it would never get the scours by getting too much at once. So then I'd call the cow in for her evening feed, and she'd come running and the calf following, and I just shunted the calf off into the pen and let the cow have her evening meal. But then the next morning, she got the other half of the wheelbarrow load, and I'd milk her and turn her out with the calf. With the beef that I was fattening, then I'd give it a whole wheelbarrow load, 9. It was a massive amount, but the cow can eat that much in a day. And the livers, when I went to the slaughterhouse and came back with the livers, I'd eat nothing but liver for the next 3 weeks because it was so good. Oh man.
Sweet.
Delicious. Yeah. If you ever had a delicious liver, then I think you'd remember it, because man, this can be one of the harder things to eat. And in my childhood, my mother had no discrimination. She just bought liver. And sometimes it was disgusting.
Yep. Liver and onions.
Oh, we had liver and onions once a week potatoes. When I was a kid. Yep. But once in a while, she got some decent liver, and it's pretty good. But these livers, they were beyond compare. So, wow, I'd just eat nothing but liver for 3 weeks. And man, any arthritic symptoms I had or anything else like that, aches and pains, and just all went away. Man, I felt great. But it was only, about 3 weeks a year.
The one liver I had that I loved was a groundhog that I killed in the greenhouse. That was fresh. I ate that, boy, it was sweet.
Oh,
Sweet,
man,
tender.
man, a good liver is incomparable. And the beef was sweet and juicy, lots of juice. Man, there's the juice in that green chop. It translated into juice in the beef.
Yep, I believe
it was so beautiful. Yeah, I had people that got some of that, they'd buy hamburger from me. And they'd come back and say, how come your hamburger is so much better than any other hamburger we've ever had? And I thought, well, there's several reasons, but basically I'm feeding it the green chop off of the market garden. Why wouldn't it be the best you ever had?
Yep. Yep.
So it was a great source of feed. The earthworms, I'm sure, thought so too. Let's see here, I have another picture in here somewhere that might show. Oh, this is my garden, currently, right now. This was earlier in the season. See how this is on a slope, but I've terraced it in one bed per slope. And the tractor has to come down here, down here, and spade the bed. So the outer edge and the inner edge are the same, basically, and then it steps down to the next bed.
Kind of know how to handle a tractor on that kind of space, don't you?
Yeah, it's a little trickier with the tractor because it's
a brake to turn.
Yeah, various things.
Yeah.
But that's basically what I'm talking about here with the soil food web, because the soil food web completely encompasses the entire growing area.
So you spade once a year, or?
Yeah, or I'd spade less if I had a no-till planters that could do that job. Because there's a lot of things I'd do with no-till planters. Not potatoes and not carrots.
Right, sure.
I would do a lot of things that way. I'd spade it up to plant my garlic. But then when I got the garlic out, I'd just direct drill it in sweet corn. You know, because all I do for that garlic is just loosen it and pull it out.
Yeah, it's really.
And then I can take the lawnmower over the top, and I'm ready to plant my sweet corn and beans. I got sweet corn and kidney beans this year.
See, I bet that if you use that Morrison as a strip tiller, you wouldn't even need to spade for your garlic. I bet you would have nice loose strips. You could just come along in and stick
That
them
would
in.
be my dream.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
bet you could do that.
Because minimizing tillage is a big deal.
It is the hugest deal. It is the biggest deal
Yeah,
of all.
it's the one thing we're doing that we can guarantee we're knocking the life in the soil in the
Totally,
head.
man.
We're
Right, yeah.
just bombing it.
We're adding the oxygen.
It's like coming in there and blowing it up, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, and
speeding everything up, and
Yeah.
then you have to feed it.
Yeah.
And if you
That's
don't
right.
feed it enough, it's going to crash. You're adding all that oxygen.
well, when I first
Yep.
gardened in Silo, I did everything right. I made compost, I grew cover crops, and I double dug. But still, I was not changing my clay because I was putting so much oxygen every time. I wasn't getting any organic matter buildup. I had great results. I mean, who wouldn't if you had all that stuff getting eaten by all that life, you know? But I wasn't changing the clay.
but you weren't building your soil food web.
Yeah, I started giving talks. I said, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. That's what I've been doing.
That was my early farming career. I was always going backwards more than
Yep,
I was going
yep,
forwards.
Yep.
And I had the good sense to realize it.
Well, as a grower, you start having questions like, why am I not getting the results I expect? I'm doing everything right. Why isn't the soil getting better? You know?
Well,
Then you realize you're not doing everything right, you know?
there's 2 rules that I follow in farming and building soil. And I don't think any other kind of farming needs to be done. We need to build soil with whatever we grow. And those 2 rules are, 1, maximize your biomass production.
Yep.
And 2,
Take advantage of that solar engine, right?
yeah, 2, because that's what puts carbon and life into your soil.
That is
whole
the
driver of
that
everything.
drives it
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
But the second thing that I have to do is to maximize digestive activity.
Yep.
Because that's what recycles and transforms what I built in the formative stage of building a biomass. Then I'm taking that biomass and transforming it.
Yep.
And in the transformation, the animal comes into its importance, and the animal is intelligent. And I end up with an intelligent soil food web by doing that.
Yep.
And that's a big deal. I can't really explain why intelligence is such a big deal, but it's a big deal.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different intelligences, that's for sure. You know, but
Yeah.
throughout the natural systems, it's a very intelligent world, you know?
Well, it's intelligent whether it went to school or not.
Yep.
Naturally intelligent.
Right. Sometimes the ones that went to school aren't so intelligent, you know?
Well, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah, school spoils people.
Sometimes their intelligence has been severely stymied and they need to get back outdoors and get reconnected, and then they get intelligent again.
They need to be spaded.
Yeah, right.
Just kidding.
This has got a lot of strange connotations.
Yeah.
Being spaded. I don't think we want to go there.
Yeah, yeah. No,
But yeah, definitely I want to feed whatever it takes to my plant growth to maximize the plant growth, but then that plant growth has to recycle. So my plant growth has to feed the digestion, and the digestion is what really makes the place intelligent.
So I think it was 2014, I went to Haiti for a couple weeks. Right before I left, our sweet corn was in. I didn't even get to eat any of it, I was too busy, right? But before I'd left, I'd undersowed it with cover crop. So it was really lush with cover crop growing underneath it.
Okay.
And I came back right in time to do a farm tour. And it had been flail mowed, and it was clear. And so I told people what had been there, and I said, they flail mowed it. And so you hauled it to the compost pile? I said, well, they must have. But Jeremy, my coworker, was standing there saying, no, Pat, we didn't do anything. It was just sitting there, and it's gone now.
Sure.
That was 2 weeks.
Sure.
2 weeks.
Sure.
And the biomass between the cover crop and the corn, there was like one stalk that hadn't gotten chopped up laying there, and that was it. You know?
This was a bed of beans, and I grew things on my fence. You can kind of see the idea here. I actually did string lines down the bed, measured it exactly 1 meter wide, and dug it with a shovel.
That's some digging.
And the first time I dug this, it was bouncing up and down on the shovel.
Yeah.
And then
Pretty amazing how it
crumbling
can
it
change,
up
yep.
and everything. And then after that, after growing ginger or garlic or something like that in it, then it turned into this lovely, crumbly brown soil from a real gummy red clay.
I've been there. It's a joy to see.
This is another, this is pictured there. There's okra. I'm looking at the beds from the side. And this was corn and beans down here. And there was my aloe nursery. This was in Australia. And that was that Barbados strain. Then this is another view of the aloe bed.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You can kind of get a sense here of how this bed and path system worked. It really, really worked. This was all done with just a shovel. So it wasn't done with a spading machine.
You can do a lot with a shovel. It takes time, but you can do it.
Yeah. Well, I had a pretty good sized garden there, if you see what I'm talking about. This was corn and soybeans just coming up.
Do you have a particular soybean variety you like?
Yeah, I like, for these kind of conditions here, I like your hay type. I grew one called Laredo. It was a black bean, and it was like real small black bean. It made vine. It was a terrific foliage producer.
Yeah, we've got a company here that specializes in soybeans, Wanamaker Seed. So
Oh,
I'll
great.
talk to her about it.
Yeah, see what you can do. I'd like to get some more of that seed if I could.
Okay, well, she
I
can
don't
probably
know where
source
to
it
find
for
it.
us, you know, and then
Yeah, I can't find it today myself.
we'll see. Maybe what we do is get her to source it for us, and then we can produce it here.
You can see how many pods I could set to the node, though. By building up the boron, you set more pods to the node. This is a bed of soybeans. This one was the edamame variety. Actually, this one would have been called Vinton 81, I think, in this country. Don't know what it was called there. I got my soybeans from the guy who ran the combine out at the experiment station there in Australia. And at the experiment station, the guy who ran the experiment station said, I want you to come look at my soybeans. So we're looking at his soybean plot, the trial plot of all these different varieties of soybeans. And I had never seen so many excess trace mineral problems in soybeans before. Never saw it, and I haven't since. And I said, what did you use for fertilizer? Because I figured it must have been fertilizer that caused this. And he said, well, we used nitrofosca, which is a brand of fertilizer there that has iron, manganese, copper, and zinc added to it. Well, we had a soil there at the experiment station. It was about 18% iron. So it didn't need iron.
Right.
In its total test, it would have had nearly 100 parts per million zinc, so it didn't need zinc. And it had a huge manganese component and had plenty of copper too, over 40 parts per million copper in the total test.
I'm always amazed by people that go ahead and add all kinds of minerals without seeing what they're saying.
And I said, well, why, I said, these are soybeans. Why did you use any fertilizer? And he said it wasn't up to us. CSIRO, which is the peak scientific body in Australia, told us what to use. And he used 300 kilos to the hectare of nitrofosca, which was like a 10-10-10 with traces.
Yep. They had all kinds of bug problems on those soybeans.
Oh, these soybeans had excess zinc, excess copper, excess everything. And I'd never seen such a thing before. And he says, he wanted me to tell him what was wrong with it. I said, there's too many things wrong with it. I said, I can't tell you what it is because it isn't just it.
Right. Yep. Yep. No,
So,
I just got an email from not a young woman, a woman my age who worked really hard to put a garden in Arizona, raised beds and all that.
yeah.
And then she overloaded it with all kinds of compost and stuff. And she says, as the plants are growing, I'm giving them lots of organic fertilizer. And I said, watch this video, watch that video, call me,
Well, the only soybeans that did well in their trials were the most hopeless, non-robust varieties. Because you put that much fertilizer on a variety that doesn't know how to grow, and it does kind of know how to grow.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
But the ones that knew how to
inefficient,
grow
so it
without it,
right,
man, they were dosed. They were like screaming their excesses.
You need an inefficient plant to make it so that there's...
That was right. It had to be an inefficient plant or it wasn't going to survive.
Yep. And I guess that's why there are inefficient plants, because there are places when they need to be inefficient.
I guess so. That was terrible though.
It looks pretty bad, yeah.
There's my bananas,
Uh-huh.
just incidentally.
They're looking good.
Yeah, I got some really good bananas off of that. Shabri, when she came and visited, this is before we got married, and I went and I stood on this fence here and I cut that bunch of bananas and I hung it under the house. The bananas were formed, but it wasn't quite ripe. I hung it under the house and gave it a week, and I cut a hand of bananas off and brought them in and says, here, taste this. And she peeled that banana and she had a bite and she said, oh my God. She didn't know a banana could be so sweet and creamy and yellow inside and just delicious,
Yep.
I had something like that once in Maui in the jungle, picked it right off of it. And it was just like
man.
tiny little creamy yellow, amazing.
Just beautiful.
It was just,
Man, I know.
it was great.
Oh, there's my compost piles. And it's nothing fancy or anything, but you can see I've got soil in my compost. And I think that's absolutely essential. You need to put at least 10% soil in your compost. Or if it's not soil, it needs to be the rock dust.
Right, yeah. And lots of bulking agent, right? Lots of stocky material.
Oh, yeah. Well, whenever I got through with the bed, I threw everything in the compost. I pulled everything out by its roots. dusted the roots off, still had soil on them, put them in the compost, and I'm ready to plant again. If I mixed it in, well, I have to wait a month to plant.
Right, yep, yep.
And because I'm trying to maximize biomass production, I'm wasting a month if I do that. So I want to plant back the same day. Well, if I mix stuff into the soil that's going to have to take time to digest, I can't do that.
Right.
If I pull the plants up, pull the roots out, and rake it off smooth and plant again, then I don't have to do any of that.
Yep.
So that was on the gardening scale. I'm not so sure how you do that on the field scale.
Yeah, I don't know if you can. You might be able to cut and blow and mow and make windrows that you then compost.
You
know?
might.
Yeah. But the other thing we're doing for biomass now is we're just learning to undersow like crazy. You know, we got cover crops. We just plant cover crops underneath our growing crops.
Well, that helps. That helps.
I mean,
undersow has got a lot. It's a succession planting thing, you know?
Well, in the greenhouse, lots of times we got such a tight schedule. If we don't undersow, the cover crop is barely started when we're ready to kill it, you know? But if we undersow, it's about done when we're ready to kill it, you know?
Yeah, and it's easy to do for a cover crop.
Yeah.
There's my beehives. I wasn't going to garden without bees.
And are you keeping them alive?
There, it wasn't any problem. Here, it's my neighbors all have beehives, and so if I had a beehive, it would just increase the bee pressure in my area. I get bees all over my garden as it is. Australia actually produces most of the packaged bees that are sold here in the States.
Wow.
So their bee thing is fairly healthy.
So they're not having the problems we're having.
Not the colony collapse disorder, but then they aren't using those insecticides either.
Right. Gee, what does that say? Of course, it's not the insecticides.
Oh, no, it couldn't be the insecticides because they're made by a reputable company, and they wouldn't sell you anything if it was going to hurt
And
you.
the EPA says it's fine, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's
And we know we
proof.
can trust them because they used to work for the company.
That's right. Proof positive, right?